Welcome to European Railway, the video magazine for the continental enthusiast. In this programme we take a look at freight and passenger traffic around France's busiest marshalling yard just to the north of Metz. A visit to Schirnding in Germany, which is situated on the busy single track line to Cheb. We travel to northern Italy and to sample trains on the line from Como to Milano. The delights of Switzerland and a visit to the SBB operated metre-gauge Brunig line. We profile traffic around one of Luxembourg's busiest railway junctions. A morning visit to St Johan in Pongau, situated on one of Austria's principal mainline rail routes. Finally, some big French diesels, a visit to the non-electrified line around Longueville to the southeast of Paris. Woippy yard is situated around 6 kilometres to the north of Metz in northeastern France, close to the border with Luxembourg and Germany. The yard is the busiest in France, lying as it does on one of the principal freight routes into and out of the country. This is Cybic locomotive number 26203, seen from one of the three main road overbridges which straddle the complex. This is at the southern end, close to the main reception sidings, which can be glimpsed in the background behind the signal box. To the north of the complex, close to Mézières-les-Metz station, the tracks converge into a four-track main line. Number 22231 is seen heading north. These are the main sorting sidings, which are fed from a wagon hump facility. This view is taken from the middle of the three overbridges. The northernmost one can be seen in the far distance. The job of propelling the heavy freight trains over the hump belongs to these specially designed X63000 locomotives. Now class 64700, the engines are paired with a powered mate, giving much more tractive effort. BB26000 arrives at the southern end of the yard with a freight from Forbach. These locomotives have now been withdrawn, but were always popular with enthusiasts, especially in their final years. Not all freight trains stop at Woippy, with almost as many bypassing the yard on the main lines which skirt the east and west sides. Here 26233 heads north. There are a regular procession of passenger trains on the main through lines. 15045 heads this southbound express. To the north of the yard at Mézières-le-Metz, 15028 is seen heading the 0715 Bruxelles to Brünig Eurocity service. Local trains are mainly operated by BB16500 locomotives with push-pull passenger stock. This is 16696 heading north. Passenger trains were seen around every 15 minutes in each direction throughout the day. Another of the yard's resident shunters is the Class Y 8000. This example is seen in the complex on the 19th of May 2001. Class 63000 diesels are also common in the area. No less than 3 provide the power for this short pickup freight arriving in the reception sidings from the north. Two livery variations for these Class 26000s. The nearest is in an Alsace region livery, whilst the second is in the more usual cement grey and orange. classic shot of BB26070 returning to the locomotive stabling point, which is situated at the southernmost end of the yard. There are usually around a dozen locomotives there at any one time, with more at weekends. Swelling the numbers of locomotives on the stabling point quite considerably is this convoy of various shunting locomotives. There are a number of these BB25100 dual voltage locomotives based at the nearby Thionville depot. On our various visits, at least one per hour usually turns up on a freight working. Around 12 freight trains an hour are quite usual at Woippy. The best time for freight is from Monday lunch times through to Saturday afternoons, although a considerable number do operate on a Sunday. But these are usually intermodal or block freight trains which travel direct between railheads. Finally, 25154 is seen heading north with a lengthy mixed freight, typical of the majority of the traffic seen in this busy and popular train watching corner of France. Schirnding is just a couple of kilometres from the border with the Czech Republic. We call by one Sunday evening and witness a surprising amount of activity. Local trains are operated by withdrawn on routes such as this from Reichenbach to Marktredwitz via Cheb. The company took delivery of 9 of these two-car Desiro diesel units in 2000. The line is also busy with freight, with some intense diagramming required on this stretch of track. Most freight traffic is worked by Saalfeld-based Class 232s. Here, 232623 is seen just to the east of Schirnding on its way to Augsburg. Highlight of the day is the train that supplies lignite to the power station at Augsburg. The train is worked from the Czech Republic by a Cheb-based Class 781. The train is piloted from Augsburg to Schirnding by a DB Class 232. The evening empties recess for around 2 hours in Schirnding station and are booked to depart at around 21:45 hours. The train runs 7 days a week. Here, Celebrity 781578 basks in the evening sun. The use of Class 781s on this train is due to cease in the near future. Mind you, that is what the operating authorities have been saying for the past 4 years. Only time will tell how long these popular locomotives will remain on the route. This is the 1909 service from Mark Tredwitz. There are just 3 locomotive hauled passenger trains using the line each day. This train is IC50 from Prague to Nuremberg. This road crossing is around 400 metres to the east of Schirnding station and offers one of the few vantage points in this very wooded area. Freight trains were noted as around 1 per hour in each direction. The station lies around 16 kilometres from the popular Italian lakes resort of Como on the main line to Milano. As with any station in Italy, you are strongly advised to ask permission before you take any photographs, either from the local railway staff or from one of the numerous railway police. In our case, permission was granted, but only if we remained at the southern end of the station. It was still the morning rush hour when we began filming. Most trains were hauled by Class 646, which spend almost all of their time operating local suburban services such as this. Class 444 share express passenger duties with Class 656. Here 444114, hauling Swiss passenger stock, heads south with the 0746 from Bellinzona to Milano. As it was still the morning peak, commuter trains were operating every 20 minutes towards Milano and hourly in the opposite direction. The line is extremely busy with freight traffic, with around 5 trains an hour in each direction. Most operate to and from the large freight complex at Chiasso in Switzerland. This is 633-234. 656052 heads north with the 0825 from Milano to Schaffhausen. (444.072) coasts around the corner with the 0824 from Biasca to Milano. These trains date from as early as 1967, with the main build lasting until 1976. Express services on this route usually operate one each way every hour. The line runs from Interlaken to Lucerne via the Brünig pass. We sample some of the stations along the route of this fascinating and very busy narrow-gauge railway. Class 101s share passenger duties with various types of railcar. 101963 heads one of the line's premier trains, the Brunig Panoramic Express. The Class 111 railcars are employed on local trains between Interlaken and Meiringen, and from Lucerne to Giswil. This line runs alongside the shores of Brienzersee, seen in the background. Brienz is the starting point of the Brienzer Rotormbahn, an 800mm steam-worked rack system. The line takes you up the 2,350 metre Brienz-Rothorn mountain. The station at Brienz is adjacent to the lake shore and is handy for the various cruise boats that ply their way up and down the lake. 101966 has control of the 1635 Luzern to Interlaken service. The line's maintenance depot is at Meiringen, where we see Class TE3 shunting tractor number 203 busily shunting passenger stock. Also note the standard gauge freight vehicles sitting on specially constructed transport wagons. It is a lovely summer's day and the sun is out, but don't let that fool you. Summer showers are quite common in the Alps, but they tend not to last very long. The line from Meiringen to Interlaken is privately operated by the MIB. Here a single railcar waits to form the 1920 departure for Interlaken. The Class 110 electric railcars are actually powered motor luggage vans and have been rebuilt from Class DE120 railcars which were introduced from 1941. The original DE120 class had rack equipment fitted for the climb over the Brunig pass, but this was taken out when 6 were rebuilt between 1987 and 1993. Some Class DE120s still exist, but tend only to be used when there is very heavy demand. The summit of the line is here at Brunig-Hasleberg, some 1,000 metres above sea level. 101968 in all-over green advertising livery, a common theme now emerging from most European rail systems, arrives with the 1835 from Luzern. At Sarnen, 110003 arrives from Luzerne on a service to Gisville. The train is held while a northbound freight train hauled by green liveried 120012 comes off the single track section. The train is carrying 3 standard gauge cement wagons on the rear. The locomotive is one of the few original unmodified Class DE120s that are kept in reserve. Finally, number 003 makes its way south. Swiss narrow gauge has a fascination for many, and lines such as this attract enthusiasts from all over the world, especially when coupled with some of the most spectacular scenery in Europe. Situated south of the capital city on the main rail route to France, Bettenburg is one of the busiest locations on the country's rail network. This is the south end of the yard, accessible via small country lanes and an access road for rail staff. Here we see 2 Class 1800 diesels, numbers 1815 and 1820, heading south on the main through lines towards Thionville in France. In the opposite direction, French locomotive number 15038 passes by with train Eurocity 90 from Milano to Brussels. The yard uses a number of shunters for sorting trains. Here we see one of the 6 Class 800s. These are based on American switchers of the early 1950s. Up to 4 are allocated to work in Bettenburg Yard. From the 1950s we come right up to date with late 1990s electric locomotive technology. The Class 3000 are identical to the Belgian Class 13 and are designed to operate in one large pool. 3010 is seen heading north after depositing a freight in the nearby reception sidings. One of the most popular locomotive classes in Luxembourg is undoubtedly the Class 3600 electrics. Dating from the late 1950s, these venerable locomotives are on their way out, with just a handful left in traffic. The locomotives now mainly operate on freight services from Bettenburg to the various steel plants in the south and west of the country. They also have some passenger diagrams on the line from Luxembourg through to Longwy in France. Used for track maintenance duties, locally based 1033 is just one of 3 class members. Other regular visitors are SNCF class BB26000 locomotives. These work mainly local services on the line from Thionville to Luxembourg City. Luxembourg Railways took delivery of 6 Class 2100 railcars from Alstom in late 2000 and early 2001. The units were a short-term initiative to ease stock shortages and are virtually identical to the French X73500 railcars. One unit works the local shuttle from Bettenburg to Dudelange. Number 2103 is seen here being towed by a Class 1800 diesel. The Class 1800s will have most of their current duties taken over by Class 13 and 3000 electrics by the end of 2002, and of the 18 locomotives currently available for traffic, most may find themselves redundant. French Z11500 units also work stopping services on the line to Thionville. 11519 and 11520 depart south on the 17th of May 2001. Belgian Class 13s are now very common, particularly on through freight trains via the Stockholm route. Almost all trains have 2 locomotives operating in multiple as required, irrespective of the length of train. Lastly, in this section, we return to Bettenburg station itself. Two Class 13 electrics wind their way out of the yard and onto the main line with this lengthy northbound freight. With almost constant activity of one sort or another, we can highly recommend a visit to this area. Situated in the western half of Austria, St. Johan in Pongau lies on one of the main rail arteries linking the north and the south of the country on the route through to Villach. This is one of the endangered Class 1010 locomotives, number 1010-010. Plenty of ones and O's there, seen heading south at 07:31 in the morning. Around 2 kilometres north of the station, there are a number of handy level crossings situated on some quiet roads which make good photographic locations. The last Class 1016 to be delivered earlier this year, number 050, is heading north. These locomotives of single voltage capability were ordered before the switch was made to purchase dual voltage versions of Class 1116. The station itself is a delightful building located on the western edge of the small town. (1044-088) prepares to depart with the 0611 from Villach to Salzburg. The new Taurus locomotives are proving very popular with a number of operators throughout Central Europe. 1016-035 arrives with the 0713 from Salzburg to Klagenfurt. One other talent the locomotives have is their ability to produce some interesting musical notes. As 035 departs, it stakes a claim to a place in one of the Vienna orchestras. Another endangered class of locomotive are the 1141s. Here, number 006 heads south light engine. With the introduction of 50 class 1016s and eventually over 375 class 1116s, these locomotives are not expected to last beyond 2003. One of the few diesel-operated main lines in France, connects Paris with Troyes and onwards eventually to Mulhouse. A small amount of freight runs on this stretch of line. Number 72018 eases out of the sidings and over the now disused junction to Montereau and onwards towards Paris. Some expresses are double-headed. This is 72090 and 72039 on the 1634 Paris to Coulmont-Chalendrey. At Longueville there is a junction with a surprisingly busy single track line to Brovine, which is operated by diesel multiple units and Class 67-400 diesels operating on push-pull stock. At Loudun, around 7 kilometres west of Longueville, 72006 disappears into the sunset and is passed by 72033 hauling the 1915 Paris to Mulhouse. At Rampillon, 72051 has charge of the 1803 from Coulmont. We leave you with 67515, giving it Watt 4 on a stopping train for Provins. We hope that you have enjoyed this issue of European Railway. Look out for issue number 6, due out in October.